Other African countries are obsessed with South Africa.
Hi everyone, Sunny Bonani. Guys, guess what? Africans are so obsessed with South African. Do you know why? Do you all know why? So, guys, when something is happening in South Africa, it goes viral, as you people already know. But when it is happening in other African country, no one is talking about it. For example, look at what is happening in Nigeria. Bandits are unaliving people in Nigeria. Nigerians are eating their fellow human beings, but no one is saying anything about it. But when it gets to South Africa, it goes viral, like the match and match that is going viral now in South Africa. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, do it to like, share, and subscribe while you listen to what my sister have to say about this. This our South African sister just ate it. She ate it. She responded to all these obsessed Africans that are upset with South Africans. Guys, listen to what she has to say.
I never see this energy when it's time to speak about elections in your countries. I never see this energy when it's time to speak about supporting the movements for freedom in your countries. Everything in South Africa, nyao Africa, nyao Africa, nyao Africa, nyao. If we reserved half this energy for speaking about what's happening in Congo, Sudan, Libya, we would be so far. But it seems the entire continent is obsessed with pathologizing one country because somewhere, somehow, access to South Africa means more opportunities for you. And it also means you forego the responsibility of holding your government accountable for what's happening in your country. It's easy to harbor anger and animosity towards the one successful country on the continent. But when are you going to harbor that anger and animosity towards the government that is stealing from you on a daily basis? South Africa is the second youngest democracy on this continent after South Sudan. We are still reeling from the impact of apartheid, which you never fail to remind us every day, telling us that our country is run by whites, the same country you conveniently run to. You never fail to remind us that we are filled with HIV and we are useless drug addicts that are lazy and stupid. You never fail to remind us that we depend on the government in order to survive. But who are we supposed to depend on? At this rate, Africa will never be free. Haikona, the obsession with South Africa is crazy.
Hello, hi, konnichiwa, Stars Fusion, namaste, ni hao, dumelang, it is me again. I come bearing information that I think that you should know, and this information is behind a paywall. So I paid for it, so you didn't have to. So News24 recently released an article that the minister of a press release that the Minister of Police recently had. So the police minister, Feroz Kachela, I don't give a damn a river or a pond on how to say his name right, because he doesn't care about the South African people, so I don't care, okay? He says the government is prepared for the violence that might occur on June 30th. I want you guys to pay attention to the language that the media, the middle class, as well as the politicians are using to explain and to describe the march that will happen on June 30th. All right? And also the middle class, I'm not against you. I am part of the middle class. I just feel like sometimes you guys are just far away from reality, right? And most of you are just a bad debit order away from going back home. And you don't see that because you're very comfortable in the date that you have. But I'm not here to banter with you today. I will do that on another day. But I also need you to be here because they're going to be using you in this narrative of theirs. I'll explain that at the end. So he's saying that all of this, all this, the deployment of police officers and, the resources that is being distributed for June 30th is costing the taxpayers 600 million rand. As I said, be very intentional and please pay attention to the wording that they use. I will explain later. He says that you should be aware. So he's giving you a warning and that your reckless behavior, he did say that, I'm quoting him, I'm not exaggerating, is costing the countries millions. He says all this money should be going to the safety of the communities and improving the safety of the communities, as well as building more police stations. Like the police stations we have are not enough. Your police are not doing their work. And weren't you supposed to be improving the safety of the communities, regardless of the protests that are happening on June 30th? What's the correlation between the two? But hey, I'm just a girl. He says the police have increased operational readiness on all provinces and they've developed comprehensive deployment to protect communities, infrastructure, as well as public spaces. The hotspots of these deployments has been Gauteng, KZN, Eastern Cape, as well as Western Cape. My question is, over the years we have townships. People have been complaining. So where was this deployment and resources of money as well as police officials in places like Langa, Khayelitsha, the Cape Flats? which is known for its high cancerism. I mean, the PA, the lady of the parliament from the PA, I think they call her Didi. She just shot a video where she got a tip off about dwellings being sold in a certain place in the Capitals, and she went there to scout it out, called the cops to say, hey, I'm here, send people. They never did. She waited for 5 hours. You don't have deployment for that, but you have deployment for peaceful South Africans who are protesting against a lack of policies on immigration as well as holding their government accountable. But you don't care because only black and brown people in the minority are being affected in these areas. Okay, where are you in Hammanskraal? Where are you in Scandaf? Where are you in Soshanguve where people are meant to pay construction fees? And constructions erupt and they never finish because people want money for doing nothing, for protecting them against nothing. Where are you in Alex? Where's the resources in Alex to help people living next to the J.S.K. River not to get flooded, taken away by the current, or kids crossing the bridge to go to school not to be drowning in the J.S.K. River in the midst of the season of rainfall, heavy rainfall by that. The money and the resources are not there. Okay, where are you when Zamazamas are displacing people in their own communities, in their own homes that they've worked so hard to pay off for years? You don't know how to deal with them because what they're mining is going to elite people, the private sector, and your politicians. And you don't have anything to say about it. You don't have cops being deployed there. You don't have the National Defense Force being deployed there. You don't have the money and the resources because that does not affect you. It benefits the people that you know, right? You don't care about that. And you know what happens when people overmine? Overmining creates mine shafts. Mine shafts collapse over a long period of time. And you know who's going to be affected by that? The people that are being displaced right now. Where is the money and the resources to help people who were displaced in Durban because of the floods? You have rubber bullets for students who are protesting inclusivity, their money being paid to unfreeze their accounts so they can go write exams. NASA's paying, asking to write and be included in education, but you don't have the manpower to contain what's happening in Sherwood, right? Because for you guys, a humanitarian crisis does not involve South Africans, but everybody who lives in South Africa who's not a South African. That's your definition, right? Because what the world and how the world sees you is more important to you than how your citizens are living. Is that what you say? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. Anyways, apparently the whole thing for the June 30th is putting a strain on police resources. This is according to the acting National Police Commissioner, Puleng Dimpani. Puleng, since you're new, of course this whole thing is going to put a strain on police officers because half of your people are there by the Matanga Commission. And if they're not there, they're on the way there, by the way, if you haven't been reading the news. So the strain is not just coming from June 30th. June 30th might be adding on the strain, but your strain is coming from your own people not knowing how to do their work, from being comfortable with bribes, from being comfortable with threatening people who don't pay them bribes, and working with politicians at the same time. So while you're acting to be a commissioner, it would behoove you to act to read the newspapers and to call your people in order to actually do their work, but not on South Africans who are not doing anything and who are peacefully protesting, but to raid places that are unhealthy. Go check restaurants that are unhealthy and go check places like Sunnyside. I mean, if you live in Sunnyside and you go by there by the ShopRite, regardless of where you're coming from, you will pass a building that surely sells dwellings, but we don't see you there, right? Because it's not on your mandate. Your mandate is South African people, not what affects the South African people. The Minister of Police says the SAPS remains the agency that's going to lead the maintaining of order on June 30th. However, the National Defense Force might be requested if it gets out of hand. Where's all this urgency when the South African people are the victims? You have all these lists and statistics about how South Africa is the most dangerous country in the world. But when South Africa happens to foreigners, it's renamed as xenophobic. But when South Africa happens to South Africans, it's business as usual. How many Uber drivers have been unalived by criminals? One time an Uber driver who's not South African is unalived by criminals, it's framed as xenophobic? Right, because it will never maintain your narrative. We see that. They're using the words and the tones very intentionally. Taxpayers' money, anti-illegal immigration, civic movements, what else? Oh, violence looming. That's the reason they're doing that. One, with the violence and anti-immigration movement. They're trying to fearmonger illegal immigrants or migrants. Remember in Gqeberha, they had one illegal immigrant shooting at a South African, and South African reacted. They're hoping for the same reaction, but in a bigger scale. So if a foreign migrant, or a migrant rather, reacts with panic and South African reacts, then they're looking for that. Acts in panic. Then South African reacts, they're looking for that reaction. That's why they're using word violence, so they can move in. or they're using these words because they already have allegedly paid people, whether it is illegal immigrants or South Africans, to cause disruption in this movement of June 30th. So they can say, we told you so, and they can move in and have a reason to marikana the South African people again. Do you understand what I mean? They're using the word taxpayers' money because they want to include the middle class, because it's already in the air. They're already saying this, but it's going to be more prominent after the June 30th to say, you use 600 million rand of our tax-paying money to deploy police. All for what? Did you get the job now that the illegal immigrant is gone? Did you get the job? Are you getting what you're worth? Like, that whole narrative is being sold right now, but it's going to be very prominent after the June 30th because they want to get the middle class angry. And also they want to try to recoup the money, and we all know who's going to pay most of the money, which is the middle class. So the reason why he's also including, the middle class is because they've seen that they've lost the voices of the ordinary people. They've seen that they've lost it because even the influencers that they've paid to speak for them have not sent the message forward, okay? The reason why they're recruiting also foreign nationals, because they saw what happened in Gqeberha, and the whole thing was not supposed to happen. That guy just got panicked and started shooting at South Africans, and he got reprimanded. So they want that to happen on a bigger scale. But apart from that, he's using the language and the words of what happened of Botha when Botha enacted the state of emergency in 1986. Though his wording might not be very intense and insightful and deadly like Botha did, but he's using the same rhetoric. And by the way, the person who's the ambassador for South Africa in the US was the deputy minister of police. It was called law enforcement by then, but yeah. So what do you expect from a government that is still in bed with people who were ministers in the apartheid regime? Do you expect them to fight for you? I don't think so. I don't think ANC will fight for you in that. So the disdain that he has for these protests is like, how dare you as a citizen find disdain against your own government, right? I would say there are only two countries in the African continent that can, for me, like bravely fight against the officials, and that is Kenya and that is South Africa as well. Kenya does not care if they are unalived, they will fight. I think South Africa is on the same rhetoric, and I don't know if they're trying to fearmonger South Africans to eventually not do that in the long run. And what does that say about the current government if you're doing the exact same thing that the apartheid government did to Black South Africans? But the only difference now is that it is done by Black politicians. So to people who are going out there on that day, please be safe. And for us who are not in South Africa, we'll be praying for you. I know I would have been there with my camera and, but we pray for you. Be safe. And yeah. After the June 30th, I hope you guys don't stop, because they're waiting for you guys to run out of steam and you haven't so far. So they will try to burn your house. I'm telling you that for sure. But anyways.
So guys, what do you all think about the video? Not just that Africans are upset with South African. I think South African leaders are also upset with illegal foreigners, because tell me, why will a government be allocated 600 million rand to stop the protests against illegal foreigners? Why will a government be doing that? Why? So South Africa have 600 million rand. Guys, we're talking about 600 million rand to stop a protest, to silence the voices of the massive. That is what they want to do. But they could not use that money to send out all those illegal foreigners. They could not use that money to hire more and more home affair, because South Africa have only 600 home affair against how many million illegal foreigners. Anyways, guys, it's your country, it's left to you. They have threatened South Africans that they should not dare go out and protest, but South African response is what is trending right now. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do it to like,